From the town of Tyngsborough, I'm Ronnie Camille. This is Entering Tyngsborough. Today on the program, we talk about veterans, their sacrifice and service.
Usually Christmases and things like that are very tough on veterans or anybody. This is a tough time of year. A lot of councils will say it. So just being hyper aware of the people around you and going, hey, I notice they don't seem like them old selves, and maybe asking them, hey, how's things going? Because sometimes just asking somebody, how are you doing today, is a game changer for them, because that means somebody cares. Somebody's asking.
That conversation with Chris begins right now. Chris, welcome back to Tyngsborough's Front Porch.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last time you were here, it was in a virtual situation, and we had talked about Memorial Day. That was in 2024. And the last time, you talked about Memorial Day and all that, and you serve in a dual role. Since then, you have retired from the National Guard.
I have.
Congratulations on how many years of service?
Thank you. 23 total.
23 years of service.
Yeah.
So, but we're here today to talk about Veterans Day. We are taping in November, and also your office. There's been lots of changes in your office. Before we dive in, though, how has your perspective serving in the military for that period of time, 23 years, and now that you're kind of out of it, how does that look? What's that perspective like now that you're out?
Yeah, no, it's hasn't changed much. Honestly, it's once you become a veteran, right? People that serve, there's sacrifices that there's a sacrifice you just see on TV, the war, those things, but there are underlying sacrifices that happen, and that's why I think Veterans Day is a great holiday to help celebrate the sacrifices of our veterans, no matter where they served or how they served, because our veterans, whether it's training or anything else, they miss life events. When everybody else is off in barbecues in the summer and things like that, our troops are out training. I was National Guard for the second half of my career. I was active duty a lot, but you miss a lot of life events. And so to have that holiday, I think I have an appreciation personally, but as a veteran service officer, it doubles that appreciation, having the members come in and being able to chat with them. So I understand what they go through, and yeah.
What's something that residents may not realize about that transition from active service to Guard and then back to, just being a regular civilian?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so it's actually not an easy transition, because it's different. Being in the military is completely different than civilian world.
How
they
so?
do things. Okay.
I've been bugging you since I've been starting this podcast. I'm like, I want to do a podcast about what's that like? Walk us through that.
The rabbit hole. All right. So, let's take a drill weekend, for example. You show up, and, the way the military's done the training, it's so regimented. It's, you go, your food when you're supposed to be sleeping, where you're sleeping, everything is regimented and laid out. Versus civilian life, it's up to you. You do what you want, when you want, how you want it. So that there isn't a starch contrast between the two as far as how those day-to-day activities go versus military to civilian. So it's a lot different. It's definitely a lot different. Did that answer your question, or?
I might circle back to that, but that's okay. Yeah, you've touched base on some things, and what should communities understand about supporting veterans? And I might be getting ahead of myself, with veterans, but also their families. True. As their, I guess, I'm sure you get this asked a lot for the folks that are in the military, active in the Guard, but then folks that are, veterans that
right.
That are back into the fold, back into civilian. What should folks that have no comprehension on that life, what they should be aware of to kind of help support those veterans and families?
Yeah, I think just the sacrifice, like we talked about, like as menial as that sacrifice may be to you, to them sometimes it's a very large sacrifice. Missing family reunions, or the birth of their children. It goes to the extremes, right? So just being aware of the sacrifice, again, no matter how menial or minor to some people, it could be a lot to them. So yeah, that's what I would say. Being aware,
And obviously extending that awareness year round and not just on the day on November 11th.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Throughout the year, my office will get requests from citizens, hey, we're doing this project or we're doing that project for veterans, right? So it's not just Veterans Day. I get a lot of requests throughout the year. Hey, how do we, Halloween candy is a great one. What do I do with my Halloween candy? Well, there's programs on sending that to troops overseas. How do we get that done? So those are resources I try and help them with. It's not necessarily something I do, but I'll find them the answers, right? But throughout the year, that kind of stuff happens. They want to write letters. They do a letter writing campaign. The schools, sometimes the kids will do a letter writing campaign to veterans serving or whatnot. So it's year round, I find, yeah.
Got it. Let's go back to get a real clear definition on your role and what you do in your office for the folks that may have not be following along. What exactly is your role, and what exactly does Veteran Services do in Tyngsborough?
Oh, okay, great question. So my role there is I'm a veteran service agent. I work, so it's a little blurred sometimes, right? The main goal of my office, the number one priority, is low-income benefits on behalf of the state. It's called Chapter 115 benefits. Those are for veterans and family members of veterans, widows, surviving spouses, that meet a median income, a asset threshold for the state for low income. My job is to help them apply, and if they're eligible, get them benefits to help them. It could be monetary, it could be helping pay medical copays, those things. That's the number one priority. Number two, and I hate to put priorities, right, because it's all important, but the secondary priority would be filing for any state or federal benefits. That could be the state annuity, welcome home bonus. There could be VA claims. There's a wide breadth of different benefits out there.
The last time we chatted, you mentioned that there might be some veterans that are reluctant to ask for help. Mm-hmm. What sort of advice would you have to somebody that might be watching or listening, that are unsure about reaching out?
Yeah, find somebody you're comfortable talking to, and maybe they'll reach out. But I'm bound for confidentiality purposes from speaking about somebody directly to somebody different, right, without their permission. But in generality purposes, if they're like, hey, my father, who doesn't want to ask for benefits, I'm just wondering if my dad would qualify for something here. Either they can reach through a family member or friend, or you can ask on their behalf, as long as it's in generalities, right? I'm more than happy to answer those questions. So, yeah, if you're not comfortable coming directly, then see what's out there. Ask a friend to ask.
Yeah. You've also mentioned, you've done this where you've pointed people to different programs. How do you partner with these, let's say outside agencies or nonprofits? How does that work?
Yeah, networking, really important in our business because people consider my office a one-stop shop for benefits. And for the most part, it is. The problem is I don't offer all those benefits, but I do have the resources. In order to get the right resources, the right people, I'll reach out to people down at the Bedford VA. Sometimes I'll go speak down there for a quick 30 minutes. But the idea behind it is, and somebody will be like, well, that's not Tyngsborough. But what I'm doing is networking. So I'm speaking to a group. There may be Tyngsborough residents in that group. But more importantly, I'm networking with the provider who's hosting that group from the Bedford VA. And I'm getting that networking done where when a Tyngsborough resident or now Drake resident comes to me, I go, I got the person for you. Let me get that person on the phone, or let me email that person directly. Because as you know, the federal government is a crazy web of
yes.
How do I get a hold of you? pretty much.
You think we're complicated? We really are not.
No. So yeah, that's what I would say about the networking and yeah.
So you mentioned Drake it, and obviously you have some news to share since you last were here. Tyngsborough, the town of Tyngsborough and the town of Drake it, our neighbors to the east, have created a new district. What does that district do, and why is it important?
Yeah, so over the last, and Billy Zunis, rest in peace, was the last veterans agent who had been there for an extended length of time, kind of like Kevin O'Connor for Tyngsborough, rest in peace again. I took over for Kevin in 2011, and then Billy Zunis retired not long after Kevin. And since Billy retired out of Drake it, I had filled in 7 different times for Drake it, from VSOs coming and going. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It is, and the job isn't what people think it is. I think they come in and it's a lot of time management, a lot of personal time management. How do you multitasking and stuff. And I'm not saying people can't do it. It's just sometimes unexpected, right? So after filling in for so many times, I think Drake it and Tyngsborough. Drake had approached Tyngsborough and said, "Look, would you want to form a district?" It's complicated, right? Because nobody wants to lose services. Drake it wants their own. Everybody wants their own, and we were perfectly happy in Tyngsborough. Let me tell you, but I thought it would benefit. The only way I would do it is if I thought it would benefit our community and theirs. And the one rule I had, and I hate to say that Chris Dery set stipulations on the towns. I don't do that, but my thing to both towns was you have to hire a full-timer to accompany me. And that way we have enough office hours there for outreach. Right. And that's the most important thing is when somebody takes that job over and they're new, they don't have time for outreach. So there goes a year and a half of no outreach, no networking. And so they're falling behind on all that. So I think that's the biggest beneficiary to both towns here is you've got somebody like myself who's been doing it 14 years, and we'll bring in somebody new. Hopefully they stay. But if they don't, that's okay. We have overlap. So I think it's going to work out great for both towns.
So how does this partnership really expand the access or improve services? So it's you, and then you have you'll be getting a full-time person.
Yep.
And then you have a kind of a part-time. Will this person be elevated to full-time, or is it going to be an additional person?
Yeah, so that person, I do have a part-time staff. She's 12 and a half hours right now in the office. Those hours will be converted over to the clerk's office for full-time, is my understanding. I don't want to speak on behalf of the manager, but my understanding is those hours will be moved, and then they'll hire somebody separate for my office.
Got it.
And the person that's in my office now will have first right of refusal, because she already works in the office, to either stay in my office or go to the clerk's. And so that's all getting worked out now.
Got it. And this person would ultimately work the two communities.
Yeah, we both will. So there's a lot to do. There's no lack of veterans in either community.
How many veterans are in Tyngsborough and in Drake it?
So the average is anywhere from 10 to 15%. We're a bedroom community. We're a little higher than most. Our town's somewhere where everybody goes to retire, right? There's not a whole lot of commerce there. But so the estimate is probably, what's that, about 4,000 in Drake it, probably about 1,200 to 1,600 in Tyngsborough.
Just about. I just did the math real quick on the calculator.
Yeah.
So about 1,300 or so. So yeah, so close to maybe 2,500 or, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 3,000 veterans in the community.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, the low income is only a part of it. There's so much more to the job than just that.
Yeah. What should the veterans in both communities know about the transition, and how is it going to change? Is it going to change anything?
A few things will change. The processes, like, Tyngsborough, we've been doing it the same way. God, I did a lot of the same processes my predecessor did, right? Because they work and they're proven. And I've made adjustments because you can always find improvement, and I'll always take suggestions. There's a way we do things a certain way for a certain reason, right? But there's always improvement. So coming into a district, I think Drake it, what they're going to see is maybe their processes become a little bit more like tight, like more systematic. As they went through VSOs over and over again, each VSO kind of made their own rules because it's your office. It's you do things how you want as long as they're compliant with the law. But with having me there, right, wrong, indifferent, however people want to look at it, there's a process, and it's proven. And I'm hoping for Drake it and Tyngsborough that this will establish some type of organization for them and their veterans.
And is that process something you've developed, or is that something that you've kind of brought in or you inherited?
Oh, I inherited most of it. I changed very little. The things I've changed is because of technology, right? Since I got in 2011, it's moved so fast with technology. There are things I can't do the old way, right? And know what I want to. But for the most part, the process itself and how I manage things hasn't changed a whole lot throughout the years.
Got it. Okay. You've answered questions that I was going to plan on asking you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
What are some benefits or programs that newer veterans or younger families may not realize that they qualify for?
Oh God! So that is the $1 million question, and I get that all the time, Roni. I tell you, I have a book on my bookshelf. It's probably about, I think it's like 2,300 pages with all programs, and I ask them, do you need a wheelchair? And they're like, no, I don't need a wheelchair. I'm like, well, do you need do you need a car, a special adapted car? No, I don't need that. I said, well, here's my point, is you got to figure out your needs. And when you figure out your needs, I probably have a program. Whether you qualify or not, I can whittle down the programs, but I need to know your needs.
Right.
Because there's thousands and thousands of programs.
Interesting.
Literally. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So for families, for anybody who has a need, contact me, and I'll be happy to point it out where it is and what the thresholds are for qualifying for those programs.
And there are veteran offices just about in every community across the Commonwealth, right?
Yeah, Mass General Law requires each state, each city and town to have a veteran service officer. Now, they can be individual, like us, we were, or they can district with another community. The state has to sign off on that. We just didn't do it on our own. State signs off on that for various reasons, right? Make sure that we're not just, there's going to be no cut to services. But yeah, that's Mass General Law. Every city and town has one.
And obviously, there's a network with any industry or any kind of culture, the veterans network. Besides the formalized, there's people that you served with or the branches, right? So you can, in theory, pick up a phone and say, hey, I've got somebody that needs help with their roof. Do you know a veteran that has that happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It happens. Yeah, it happens a lot. Yeah. Not a ton, but yeah, it happens where, different organizations, like I said, as you network throughout the years, right? Being 14 years there, I can call different organizations and be like, hey, this person's struggling in this department, and most likely find a nonprofit that deals with that. If I can't get a federal application or state application, but most likely find a nonprofit to get them moving in the right direction.
Right. I want to shift the subject a little bit to, currently, the current situation now. It's November of 2025. There's lots of things happening, in our nation's capital. While the town itself doesn't really, run food or housing programs, what sort of local, regional, or state resources that can exist that could help, veterans, especially those that are in working in the federal government with some of those challenges?
So so the means test for my low-income programs doesn't change. Unfortunately, they didn't lift or suspend any of that, which is unfortunate. I wish they would for this, do a temporary suspension on that. But
why?
Because if Roni makes $60,000 a year, you wouldn't qualify for low income. But Roni ain't getting a paycheck right now. So but you still make 60,000. You still have a job. You're still employed. You still make 60,000. So you wouldn't qualify. And if you did, when you got your money, the furlough money back, you'd have to pay it all back, which is fair to the taxpayer in a sense, but it's kind of unfair to you that you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to feed your family. I wish they would have suspended it, but I'm not at that level. Way above my pay grade, as they say. But that said, the state did put out guidance to each office that directed them to different food banks and different shelters and things like that we can get people to and get them help. And of course, local organizations that we have, like in town, we have the church right down the street. They'd be more than happy. I can connect them with the people down there, and more than happy to get them some food and the things they need.
Got it. I want to swing back around to the earlier conversation about, you mentioned about the whole service and sacrifice. Many veterans carry what we call the invisible wounds from their service. How do you talk to veterans about mental health and getting the help that they need?
Yeah, great question. Can I circle back on you on one thing?
Sure.
I get this question a lot with the DC and the administrations coming and going. I get it all the time. Oh, this one, that one. And I tell people, in the years I've been there, I've never seen veterans benefits go backwards regardless of the administration. First of all, it's all Congress. It's all law. It's all federal law, federal regulation. There is no power of the pen that changes the VA, right? And so just for the listeners out there, if they're worried about a certain administration coming in and it changing tides, like a lot of administrations have a lot of power for the VA is different in that way, that they just can't swipe the pen and remove money. Like, it doesn't work like that. So to the listeners, there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of administration to it. It doesn't matter who's in there, Democrat or Republican. I've never seen it go backwards. It's always improved somehow, some way. So just wanted to get that out there.
I appreciate the clarification.
Yes.
Thank you. So back to the subject of mental health.
Yes.
How do you talk to your veterans about, checking in and making sure that they have the various resources, whether through the VA or outside sources?
Yeah, so I get a lot of, I don't get a lot. So when veterans come to me, most of them are coming to do a claim for mental health, right? They're filing a claim with the VA, and of course I assist with those. But my priority is, as I go through the claims process, is to make sure I'm making them aware of the different programs out there for mental health counseling and encouraging them to seek that counseling and utilize the VA. So that's kind of where I open the door. If they come to me looking to do a claim, things like that, that's where I open the door to making sure, hey, the claim is great. That's one part of it, but your health is more important. Let's focus on that.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of those resources that are available that, for somebody that might be listening for the first time, not knowing?
Yeah, the VA has its own crisis line. There's 811. That's another line you can call. But there's, for people looking for counseling, there's the Lowell Vet Center. There's the Lowell VA. I know there's a group called Hidden Battles that helps not just veterans with the military, but police and fire with mental health issues. So there's other organizations that I'm aware of that if somebody came to me, I'd be able to.
Oh, good. That's good to know that there are some independent or nonprofit peer networks to help
yeah,
folks.
There's a lot of those. Yep.
What should non-veterans be aware about checking in with veterans, especially those that kind of have gone through recent conflicts, major conflicts in the last 20 years, especially, right now, this, as we enter the holiday season?
Yeah, I think it's like dealing with any other mental health, veteran or non-veteran. I always say, look for the red flags, because the one thing you hear about is, when you hear about suicide or things like that, people always go back and they go, oh, I wish I'd have seen that red flag, or I wish I was paying more attention, or why didn't they reach out to me? Well, at the end of the day, you can only do so much, but being aware of when somebody's somebody's attitude changes or when their personality starts to change. Usually Christmases and things like that are very tough on veterans or anybody. This is a tough time of year. A lot of counselors will say it. So just being hyper aware of the people around you and going, hey, I notice they don't seem like them old selves, and maybe asking them, hey, how's things going? Because sometimes just asking somebody, how are you doing today, is a game changer for them, because that means somebody cares. Somebody's asking. And that is a absolute game changer, just asking them, how are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you served for more than 23 years in the military. What has surprised you the most about this current chapter in your life? You're not playing double duty anymore.
Yeah. God, some people miss it. I just don't. I don't. I'll be honest with you. Of course, like I said, at the end, it was mostly just weekends because of National Guard. But, scheduling my life around drill, like 3-4 day drills every year it wasn't fun.
And deployments.
Yeah.
You deployed as well.
I got called up even as a veteran service officer, I got called up a couple times for a full year at a time. Twice. Yeah, twice I was gone for a full year. Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do.
You rose that hand.
You raise your hand. And in some of those things I got called up for were voluntary, right? But somebody has to volunteer. Everybody kind of does their part. I didn't volunteer for everything. But there were some things I went, it's kind of my turn. Because at a certain rank, they look for so many privates and younger enlisted soldiers to go on a deployment. Then they look for so many sergeants, and then they look for so many master sergeants. But it gets smaller and smaller as you kind of go up the scale, right? They don't need as many leadership. And so as you kind of go up the scale, everybody who's already kind of done their time, and when it's your time. So you try to volunteer periodically. I think I deployed in 17 to 18, was it? And then 22, 20. Yeah, it's escaping me. No, 17 to 18. And then before that was, I think, 14 to 15.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there were 2 periods, but then there were other opportunities that I was like, no, I can't do anymore. I've got 20 years and I'm just working out my contract at this point, being done. Yeah, it was somebody else's turn to step up after that.
Is there somebody in senior leadership that was like, wait a minute, your time is up? Wait, he's saying no?
No, I think we all get it. Like we all know who's who, and you do your time and contribute. Yeah. You try and contribute as much as you can, but you understand that there's other people there too that can pick up the torch and keep running.
So, have you kind of put that all behind you and you're like, yep, that's done? Do you still kind of contribute a little bit or advise? Do you still, get phone calls from folks that you served with?
Yeah, we still talk. Yeah, it's funny because although I'm not serving, I still talk to some of the people quite often. You make friends, you bond, and hopefully they're lifelong, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I still stay in touch, but as far as being a part of it, no, not really. No, once you're out, you're out. You don't really stay in it. Yeah.
What advice would you have for somebody that is a younger service member that's one day will be in your shoes, transitioned out? They've done their time. I'm not saying how long, but they've done their time, and they do that transition.
Yeah, for me it was a bit different, right? Because I had this job the whole time, so I was fortunate. But some of these National Guard soldiers they're either full time or some of them that's all they got because they're going to school and they don't stay 20 years. They might stay 6 and just use the education benefits. Then they get out and they're like, now what, right? My advice to them is, I used to say it all the time. They're not going to name the armory after you, right? Nobody's going to name anything. When you leave, as soon as you walk out the door, they're already changing the signature stamp on all those. Doesn't matter. But work hard. Do your best. Contribute all you can. But at the same time, never forget that there's life beyond that. And to focus on that isn't a problem. You should actually be actively focusing on that while you're in, because that inevitably is going to come. that day. And that's the advice I would give them is make sure you have a plan B. Even while you're you're going, all right, I'm not going to be here forever. What's my next step?
Right. And we brought this up at the top of the podcast, but just again, how can the community support the veterans community throughout the year and not just on November 11th?
There are different ways. Tyngsborough being a little bit smaller, but there are some good organizations out there that they can get involved with. I would say one of the most forgotten things is down in Bedford at the VA. Every year I bring Christmas cards, and I just had a couple girls from Bishop Girton write a letter to my office just thanking a veteran randomly. And I thought it was like great, and I'm going to get that letter down to the Bedford VA. I'm actually going to make copies of it because it's a really great handwritten letter. But those are the type of things that really lift the spirits, right? Sometimes just saying thank you is, and I get those down, like I said, to the Bedford VA. And just to clarify, the Bedford VA has like a geriatric unit down there, Alzheimer's unit. So in a resident living area, so they'll give those out, and it lifts the spirits. It's a really good thing.
All right. Chris Dery, Veteran Services for the town of Tyngsborough and Drake.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And that will do it for this episode. Before we sign off, though, I want to give a shout out, a recognition to the recent graduate of Tyngsborough's Civic Leadership Academy. Graduation was held on November 3rd at the Select Board meeting. These participants spent 10 weeks learning about the inner workings of Tyngsborough's government. We thank them for their time and hope that they continue to serve their community. If you're interested, you can learn more by visiting the town's website at tyngsboroughma.gov. For the town of Tyngsborough, I'm Roni Camille. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, wishing you the best of goodbyes.